Okay, lesson number 1. Man's Search or Man's Higher Consciousness by Hilton, Hotema. If you would like to listen to the introduction and if you would like to keep up with this book that I am reading, I'm basically reading section by section, there is a playlist called Man's Higher Consciousness. You can go there if ever in the future you wanna listen to the book from A to Z. The playlist is there, okay? So, lesson number 1. Physical perfection. Physical perfection. Physical perfection would be physical immortality. And Herbert Spencer formulated the law of physical immortality as follows. Perfect correspondence would be perfect life. Were there no changes in the environment but such as the organism had adapted changes to meet, and were it never to fail in the efficiency with which it met them, there would be eternal existence and eternal knowledge. Breatharianism is physical perfection. Man came into physical existence a perfect breatharian. God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living entity. I guess it's from Genesis. Nothing was lacking, and nothing more was needed. The breath of life supplied all the requirements of animation. The breatharian needs air only and nothing more to sustain his body. In that state of physical perfection, man has no other wants. The less man needs, the more he becomes like the gods, who use nothing and are immortal, said the ancient masters. Poverty, want, and sickness are the work of man. They are the products of his habits which correspond with his desires. He increases his burdens as he multiplies his wants. This is something I discussed in a recent video. The more wants you have, the more burdens you have. If you want to eat more, you've got to work more to make more money so that you can spend more on food. If you want a mansion, same thing. You've got to put in a lot of work. You've got to work in more. You've got to sell your time to meet that desire. You stress yourself out and, all so you could afford this want of having a mansion. So, let me repeat that again. Poverty, want, and sickness are the work of man. They are the products of his habits, which correspond with his desires. He increases his burdens as he multiplies his wants. The less man needs, the more complete he becomes. He gains perfection as he gains freedom from all wants. The more wants he has, the less complete he is, and the farther he inclines from perfection. He changes his world as he changes himself. Next section, breath of life. Every living thing must breathe the air in order to live. The tree breathes the air through its leaves. The leaves are, in this sense, the lungs of the tree. Wow, I never thought of it like that. The leaf of a tree is its lungs. Interesting. Very interesting. Keep that in mind. Insects breathe the air through tiny openings in their bodies. Frogs breathe the air partly through the skin. Fishes breathe the air by taking oxygen out of the water as it passes over their gills. Man breathes the air through the air cells of the lungs. Hardly anyone understands the science of breathing, which all should know and practice. It is the air that renews our blood and brings life to all our organs. It is the air that helps to give us balance and to keep our physical and psychic functions in good order. Most people use only a third, a quarter, or even a fifth part of the lung's total surface. Yeah. That's why breathwork practice is paramount, to re-establish your breathing patterns and be able to bring in more oxygen. And if you bring in more oxygen, your appetite goes down because you're full. You're full of the primal energy, the prana, which is contained in the air. Modern man is the degenerate descendant of the Breatharian. During the millions of years that man has inhabited the earth, his environment and the many habits he has formed have forced his body to adapt itself under the law of vital adjustment to many evil conditions and harmful substances in order to survive, all of which are foreign to the body and injurious in character. Let me repeat that. Modern man is the degenerate descendant of the Breatharian. During the millions of years that man has inhabited the earth, his environment and the many habits he has formed have forced his body to adapt itself under the law of vital adjustment to many evil conditions and harmful substances in order to survive, all of which are foreign to the body and injurious in character. Next section. Stages of degeneration. Every fact of living existence, the law of vital adjustment, the evidence contained in ancient scriptures, all prove, without an exception, that modern man is the product of descending evolution, devolution. The scanty evidence that has survived from the remote past shows that modern man has slowly descended through the 5 stages. Stage number 1, Breatharianism, then descended into Liquidarianism, then descended into Fruitarianism, descended into Vegetarianism, and then descended into Carnivorism, basically eating meat. Now this is interesting because the Hindus also, the scriptures, the ancient scriptures and the Vedas, they also talk about the 4 yugas, and the first one and the highest one is the Sat Yuga, which translates into the age of truth. The word Satya or Sat means truth. And they also said that the average lifespan of human was 100,000 years. And they also say that we are now in the Kali Yuga, which is the most devolved stage, essentially. And they do talk about lifespan going all the way down to less than 100, and that's one of the things in the Kali Yuga, is the age, the lifespan goes down to less than 100. So it's a sort of a cycle, and then it goes back up again, all the way back to Sat Yuga. So yeah, that's I just thought that's very interesting. Breatharian indicates a plant or animal that neither eats nor drinks and subsists entirely on the substances contained in the air. It is surprising to know how many such plants and animals there are. The Spanish moss hanging on the trees of Florida gets all its substance from the air and grows very fast. The big cactus plants on the dry, barren deserts of the southwestern part of the USA get their substance from the air, their roots serving as anchors to hold the plants in place and complete the life circuit. Wow. 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 So the roots are just anchors. Okay. Magnetism. That's our next section. In our work, The Nutritional Myth, we stated that no chemist can find in the ground in which grows a giant tree the ash, minerals, carbon, wood, and chlorophyll contained in the body of the tree and its leaves. Nor does a tree consume the soil in which it stands. If so, as evidence of such consumption, a depression should surround every tree. A large tree weighs tons, and all the earth still surrounds it. That was there when it was a small sprout. The roots appear to serve only as anchors to hold the tree in place and complete the electromagnetic circuit of life. Trees are breatharian. If corn or wheat is planted in moist sawdust around a magnet or lodestone, growth is promoted without adding more elements. No real relation appears to exist between the elements in the soil and the plant. Examination shows that plants contain elements which never exist in the soil. They are supplied by cosmic rays. Yeah. Trees, definitely. Plants are breatharian. Trees are breatharian. That's why trees still grow even in barren environments. Even in barren environments, you'll see in the desert, you'll see palm trees. You'll see palm trees. It is the general belief that crops consume the soil in which they grow. John van Helmont did not believe it. In the 17th century, he weighted the soil he put in a tub, then planted a tree in it. At the end of the 4 years, the tree was 6 feet high and weighed many pounds. But the soil in the tub weighed the same. The growth of the tree resulted from the elements supplied by cosmic rays. There must be ground connections in the case of plants to complete the life circuit. Ground connections are necessary to complete the circuit for electric instruments. Trees grow not in certain areas, nor grow well in what is termed poor soil. They improve if given proper fertilizer. To make the circuit effective, the right minerals must be in the ground, and there must also be moisture. It is not the tree that needs the minerals. They are required to supply the conditions necessary for proper electromagnetic action. So it's not the tree isn't eating the minerals, it isn't eating the soil. The soil is simply there to provide the right environment so that the tree can receive cosmic rays and grow. You know more about motor car batteries. When the battery weakens and runs down, it is recharged. The recharging process does not infuse electricity into the battery. It only changes the chemistry of the battery fluid. All hibernating animals are complete breatharians during the weeks they sleep in winter. A fasting man who takes only water during his fast has simply added liquidarianism to breatharianism. That is the path back to physical perfection. In our work, The Nutritional Myth, we referred to cases of those who are reported to live without eating. Mrs. Martha Nahr, who had eaten nothing for 7 years. Teresa Newman, a German mystic who had taken no food nor liquid for 40 years. The press of May 3rd, 1936 mentioned the case of Srimati Girbala Devi of Patrasyar in Bankura, India, the sister of Babu Lama Badar Dey, as a woman who had taken neither food nor water for 56 years. The account said, "She takes nothing, not even a drop of water. She's always gay and looks like a child. She does not pass stool nor urine and does her housework like any other woman." This woman was reported as being 68 years old, yet she looks like a child. This appears to be getting close to the law of perpetual youth and eternal physical existence. One physiologist states that of what man eats, the only parts that do and can enter his blood are gaseous and fluidous elements. The only thing that can enter your blood is gas and liquid. All the rest is nothing but waste that passes through the bowels as feces, playing its part in overworking and weakening the stomach and bowels, with constipation afflicting practically the whole nation. And that was written back in what, 52? Now it's like even more of an epidemic. There are very few folks who are free of stomach and bowel troubles, and the markets are flooded with worthless and harmful remedies for these disorders. I mean, again, have you ever thought about why everyone's bowels and stomach are dysfunctional? Again, has it ever occurred to you that perhaps eating is not even natural to begin with? You know? Spiritual potentiality to physical actuality. That's the next section. Scholars hold that in physical perfection, man was entirely free of all wants and desires. The needs and requirements of his body were fully supplied by the pure air of his perfect environment. This is describing a mushroom trip. I swear to God. Because I have to take a lot of mushrooms, and every time I took mushrooms, it was just like, everything's perfect. I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I don't want food. I have no desire. It's beautiful. Everything's just perfect. That perfect state was a condition precedent to his coming into physical being. It was the cosmic perfection of his environment that made possible his evolution from spiritual potentiality to physical actuality. It is established fact that something cannot come from nothing. Man could not become physical entity had he not existed as a spiritual potentiality, as above, so below. What's above manifests what's below. Mind creates matter. There must be a precedent for every subsequent, a cause for every effect. There must be a cause for every effect. The cause, whether first, last, or anywhere, along the chain of causes must be comprehensive, equal of the effect. The stream cannot rise above its source. Let me repeat that. The stream cannot rise above its source. If the rivulet, whatever that means, can flow, but an inch higher than the sufficiency of its cause, there is no reason why it should not climb the mountaintop and increase by the force of its own intensity. I don't really understand that. Okay. No effect can produce its own cause. The universe could not create itself, which is equivalent to the admission that no part thereof could create itself. Water cannot rise above its source. The creation cannot rise above its creator. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Universal existence is eternal existence. What appears as the physical world, which we call nature, is the materialization of spiritual potentialities. Had man not existed spiritually, he had never become a physical reality, and his appearance as a physical entity is conclusive proof of the perfection of his environment at the time of his physical beginning. That environment had to and did possess the perfect powers and requirements that evolved man. not from an ape, but from spiritual potentiality to physical actuality. It fulfilled every need, every demand, every requirement of his physical being. Had anything been lacking, it had been fatal. That's the original perfect state, the state of breatharianism. People love to say humans are frugivores, we eat fruits, or humans are omnivores, we eat this, or, why do we digest meats? It's like, no. As we continue to devolve, we just had to adapt, period. We just had to adapt. So when we started eating fruits, we had to adapt, and our digestive tract adapted so that it could process fruits. And then as we continued our devolution, basically devolving, as we continued devolving, then our digestive tract adapted so it can handle the abuse now of consuming vegetable matter. That again, just vegetable matter, right? And so we had to adapt. Okay, we're gonna have to process rice now. We're gonna have to process grains, etc. And then we started to eat animals, and then we had to adapt to that. The stomach had to adapt to that. It had to, come up with the HCl and stuff like that to be able to process. But from the beginning, basically, none of it belongs there, really. None of it belongs there. It's not natural. It's just an adaptation so that we can continue to survive. But the cost was disease and sickness and early death, obviously, a descent in the lifespan. Wow. Okay. The way to improve physical man. Advanced scholars point out that there could have been, in man's physical beginning, no unfilled wants. Otherwise, physical being had been impossible. They show that the only way to improve physical man is to reduce his wants and decrease his economic burden. But physical science is not interested in any course that raises man to higher plane. For nothing must be done, nothing must be allowed to happen that will disturb or derange the fixed social order of civilization. Of course. This order is the product of ages of planning and scheming. It depends upon and is sustained by man's wants and desires, consumerism, capitalism, and constant effort made to promote and increase them. To that end, all education is directed. Every branch and department of civilization leads away from perfection. The movement away from perfection begins with the child in school and continues all through his life. Next section, so-called civilized view. On January 12, 1951, Frank Abrams, chairman of the board, Standard Oil Company of New Jersey, made an address before the National Citizens of Commission for Public Schools, and his address was published and widely circulated. Among things he said, "There can be no doubt that we are talking about something very fundamental to business when we talk about education, if only to maintain and expand its markets. The business world has at least as big a stake as anyone in the achievement of an educated, productive, and tolerant society. There is definite correlation between education and the consumption of commodities. Education has done more to create markets for businesses than any other force in America. Education is a business. This is the orthodox view, and according to that view, the purpose of education is to maintain and expand the markets of business and create a demand for commodities." So that's all the education system is. It's to make economic slaves. Economic slaves here, more. We need engineers. Why do we need engineers? So that we can build roads, so that we could do this, so that we could do that, so that we could meet the needs and the wants we desire. Right? Oof. It's a big scam. The constant cry of commercialism is to consume more, create new markets and new demands, promote the production of commodities, employ more wage slaves, increase the economic burden. Period. Thank you, Hilton. Thank you. Period. Okay, next section. We're almost done this lesson. Why the truth is suppressed. The art of scientific living is so lightly regarded that it receives no attention. He who is far ahead of the multitudes as to oppose the social pattern is promptly silenced, disgraced, and liquidated, and the press carry large headlines proclaiming that an enemy of social progress has been found and jailed. The deceived multitude believes. One's teaching may be in harmony with God's plan of life, the law of perfection, and the science of cosmic economy. But that teaching does not harmonize with civilization's artificial world, because civilization is just it's artificial. It's a profanity, profaning of the way of the Tao, is what it is. So, the teaching does not harmonize with the civilization's artificial world, nor supports the social pattern. Therefore, it cannot be accepted and supported by any institution or any form of government. It must be suppressed for the good of the people. It's like in the 60s when everybody was taking LSD, they decided to ban it, make it illegal, and they said it is, literally, Nixon's administration said, it is threatening the social order. It's not good for people. Tell us how long man's created wants and unnatural desires will mean money for commercialism, and we will tell you how long man will remain in his present condition of degeneracy and economic slavery. Next section, economic freedom. It is interesting and important to note that as man moves back toward primal perfection, his wants decline and his economic burdens decrease. We thus learn that these burdens are and whence they came. We see them as the product of man's created wants and unnatural desires, which perfect man had not. Man has produced them and he can destroy them. It was not until man began to form habits and adopt practices which created wants that he began to decline and degenerate. He was deceived then, as he is now, by the illusion of progress. As he developed new habits that increased his wants, he considered then, as he does now, that each new invention was a mark of progress, while he and the doctors were puzzled by the fact that his health continued to decline and his lifespan continued to decrease. Economic freedom is the first step back toward man's high state of primal perfection. Every animal in its native state has economic freedom. Man is the only economic slave on earth. He has made himself such by his unnatural wants and acquired desires. In complete freedom from every want, to be dependent upon nothing, man's mind and senses are under control. He is released from the consequences of action, which are bonds and chains binding down those who are slaves of want and desire. That's the end of lesson 1. Beautiful, beautiful. Oof. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Eating is basically an acquired habit. It's just supported by civilization. And these ideas are very dangerous. And I believe, I really believe that Arnold Ehret there was foul play involved. Arnold Ehret is the guy who wrote the mucusless diet, and he slipped and died. These are very dangerous ideas. Very, very dangerous ideas. Dr. Sebi, basically another proponent of, fruitarianism and then fasting and then, the whole thing. He was imprisoned also, and I'm not sure if he died in prison. I think he might have died in prison, or his health deteriorated while he was in prison, and they possibly poisoned him, in the water or something. Because Dr. Sebi, according to my knowledge, when he was put in prison, he fasted, but he still had to drink, so they might have poisoned the waters. But these are very dangerous ideas, because the number one thing we consume is food substance. That's the number one thing humans consume. The entire planet is a farm. It's a farm. It's a human farm, basically. Or what? For eating. Something we don't even need. Something that's actually deteriorating us. Taking us from the physical perfection. The original perfect state of Breatharianism. No want, no desire, no need. Perfection, wholeness, oneness. The environment provided us with everything. Because when we manifest it from spiritual potentiality to physical actuality, the environment is so perfect and supportive of a perfect state of appreciation. No lack, no want, no need. So, yeah, we're basically slaves to our desires, and the biggest one, obviously, is food, is eating. The drug of eating. It's a drug, it's a habit, it's an acquired habit, plain and simple. So yeah, this is dangerous stuff, folks. That's why, you know, people who bring this knowledge, like Dr. Sebi and Arnold Ehret, they you know, they were subjected to, I mean, I think there was foul play involved in Arnold Ehret's death. It's kind of almost obvious. Dr. Sebi, same thing. You know, he was put in jail for fraud, for being a fraud man, for being a con man, and for, you know, being a dangerous man, using dangerous methods that are not supported by science, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because this is freedom. You're freeing people. You're saying, look, this is bullshit. You know, it's like, what we are, basically, what we are is like we're a society. Imagine walking into a society and everybody snorts cocaine, but everybody thinks it's normal. And you came to them and said, you know what, guys, like, this is harming. Imagine you went to an alternate planet. Planet Earth, there's an alternate universe. Everybody there snorts cocaine. And it's normal. Like, everybody snorts it, it's normal. And you came in and you said, hey, you know, that's harming you, actually. That's taken away from your lifespan. That's this and that. I mean, you would be burned at the stake. How dare you? Well, that's the same thing, because food, make no mistake about it, is no different. Now, in that alternate universe, I gotta end this video in a minute. In that alternate universe, you are, or even your digestive system would probably adjust and adapt to processing cocaine, and your organs would take on new shape, new form to process cocaine if you do it generation after generation. And this is the only reason why our bodies can still digest this food, and it's like a whole process. You're left with a food hangover the next day. You know, and it literally takes like 18 hours before a meal is processed. That's 18 out of 24 hours in a day. Okay, so it's pretty clear. I mean, this is very, very clear stuff once you actually see through it. Anyway, I gotta end this video, and yeah, I will see you guys in the next one, next lesson number 2.